I'm going to show you guys real quick how I thinned down my royal icing to a flood consistency. What I'm scooping in this bowl is 3 ounces of royal icing. It came out of my recipe as this pretty stiff consistency, and then we're going to add water to thin it down to a flood. Before I add any water, I'm going to add my coloring, and this is so that I can get different consistencies if needed while keeping the color the same. For this icing, I'm using Americolor gel food coloring, and I'm using deep pink, but I'm only adding a little bit of pink to keep it light. And then from here, I'm using a soft, flexible spatula that I got off Amazon, and I'm just speeding this up because this part isn't super interesting, but I'm just mixing it until all the color is fully incorporated and I don't see any white icing on the bottom of the bowl. Once the color is totally mixed in, I start to add water a little bit at a time. So the first consistency I'm looking for here is a toothpaste consistency, and that's what I would use for outlining or details on top of the flood. I test that by pulling the spatula up out of the icing, and it should have a soft peak. For what I was doing, I did not need that consistency for anything, so I'm going to continue adding water until I get to a flood consistency. You want to add your water in really slowly because it's really easy to add too much water too quickly, and so I use a basic squirt bottle, but a lot of people will use spray bottles. If you thin it out too much, you can add powdered sugar to thicken it back up. Some people will say that that changes the structure of the icing, which I'm sure is true, but I've never had any issues doing it that way. However, it will change the color of your icing, or you can add fresh white icing from that original batch of icing that's thicker than this right here, and that'll thicken it up as well. Same idea though, it will change the color of your icing to be lighter than what you had already achieved. So the consistency that I'm searching for here is similar to shampoo, or you can go with the counting method, but I typically just go by feel. So that is why I keep pulling my spatula up out of the icing to see how it falls and runs off of my spatula. I'm looking for it to fall and then have ribbons. And if I were to go by the counting method, that means that if I were to draw a line through the icing, which I do here, it'll take about 10 to 12 seconds for it to completely level out on its own. So I would call this a 10-second flood.